Welcome to the GOTO podcast. Each episode covers the brightest and boldest ideas from the world's leading experts in software development. Tune in for practical lessons, compelling theories, and plenty of inspiration. GOTO gathers the brightest minds in the software community to help developers tackle projects today, plan for tomorrow, and create a better future. Stay up to date with the latest in tech through GOTO's top-rated events held online and in person in cities like Amsterdam, London, Copenhagen, and Chicago, and by subscribing to the GOTO Conference's YouTube channel, where you can find thousands more high-quality dev talks. Learn more at gotopia.tech.
Hi, I'm Mark Rendle and I'm here at GOTO Amsterdam. Welcome to another GOTO Unscripted being recorded live at the conference. So I am a software developer or engineer, depending on how much I want to charge you. I'm here doing a talk later on about programming's greatest mistakes, which is lots of fun. And today I am talking to Eli Holderness.
Hello.
Let you introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Eli. I'm a developer advocate at Scaleway, which is a small European cloud provider. If you want somewhere else to put your stuff that's not Amazon or Azure or Google, if they're even still doing that, they've killed off their cloud offerings by the time this video goes out. Who knows? We are an option. We're a pretty good option. The people who use us like us. There, I've done my sponsored by pitch. Apart from that, I'm a big old nerd. I'm doing a talk later today about WebAuthn and authenticating over the web without using passwords. How does it work? What's the user experience like? Some cool little weird facts and tidbits about that. I like knitting, I like cats, I like being a geek with other geeks, so conferences are great for that. That's me.
And of course, you're playing horn with the Line Breakers.
Absolutely. Mark and I are both doing Line Breakers today, which I'm extremely excited for.
Yes, we have rehearsals right after this, in fact.
Absolutely.
WebAuthn. I was kind of like just reading through the schedule and like logins without passwords, which is surely the dream.
Yeah,
so,
right.
How does that work?
So you've got your public key cryptography, right, which is you have a private key and a public key, and people can use knowledge of your public key, which you share, to verify that you have ownership of the private key. You can use it to sign things cryptographically. And this is very nice. This is how TLS works, for example. And some very, very clever people made physical objects, hardware security tokens that use basically a bit of flash memory and some crypto processors, secure crypto processors. And for the purposes of this interview, crypto means cryptography and not cryptocurrency.
Crypto never means cryptocurrency.
They'll try that for my cold dead hands. Anyway, very clever people made hardware objects that embody a private key. Like you can do all the cryptography on device, the private key never leaves the object, and you can use this as a security factor, something you have. And this is very, very cool. The other thing it allows us to do is to use it as an authenticator factor for things like user accounts on the web. And in order to make this secure and standardized, there's a set of specifications made by the World Wide Web Consortium, W3C. And those specifications are called WebAuthn. That's become the sort of standard term for using these hardware tokens over the web. And there's a corresponding set of specifications called CTAP, which is the Client to Authenticator Protocol. And those are basically like this mirrored pair of specifications that say, this is how the hardware token should talk to the computer, this is how the browser should talk to the computer, and when they're working well together, you can use these hardware tokens to verify who you are on the web.
Right.
Okay. Without passwords. All of the clever thinking stuff is done with this piece of hardware.
Right.
None of it has to happen for the person. The only thing the person has to remember is, where did I put the dang thing?
Yeah.
Which is a usability problem, and that's one of the things I talk. That's one of the things I talk about. I actually did. I talked about this on .NET Rocks a year and a half ago, actually, at NDC London. And one of the things that Rich Campbell was saying to me then is that he has like 5 YubiKeys, is a very common brand of these hardware tokens.
Yeah.
And he has them like labeled, and so if he loses one, and he has multiple registered for each online account that he has them registered to, so that if he loses one, he has one still in his possession that he can use to get back into the account. And I'm like, this is all well and good. However, I'm not keeping track of all of that. They're expensive. You can't ask users to do all that. So there is like, this is very, very cool. It's very cool technology, but there is usability concerns here.
Yes, because I own 2 YubiKeys, one of which I bought, and one of which I got free with my Ars Pro++, Ars Technica subscription. I have not seen either of them. I also own 2 Raspberry Pi 4s, and I'm not sure where those are. One of them's on. I can't find it.
It's gone. It's released back into the wild. It's living wild and free somewhere.
My house is just absolute chaos. I have a 17-year-old and a 12-year-old and a wife and a dog.
The dog is coding at night. It's taken the Raspberry Pi 4.
And I think the dog might have... When the dog sort of passes on and gets cremated, like we might find that Raspberry Pi 4 goes offline.
Yeah,
I think she might have eaten it.
Yeah,
and it's running off her body's static electric. Anyway.
Yeah, like you can power them with potatoes, right?
Yes,
we can do this. Yeah.
But so it sounds like WebAuthn is one of those things where they've taken something and made it work with browsers and then stuck web in front. So like WebGPU, WebGL, Bluetooth, web, all this
exactly. So in security world, we've got authn, which is authentication, proving who you are, and then authorization, which is proving that you're allowed to do a certain thing.
Yeah.
And so there's various different kinds of technology built around these 2 concepts. It's important not to get them confused because then you could leave yourself with big security gaps. It's why OpenID Connect exists, and you don't just use OAuth for it, because OAuth is authorization and OIDC is authentication. There's a whole hours-long talk on the differences between the 2 in there.
I always like so authn is 401 and authz is 403.
In what? In forbidden? In
terms of status codes, because 401 is you are not authenticated, and 403 is you are authenticated, but
you're
you
not
can't
allowed to do that. Exactly.
Which everyone always gets wrong anyway.
Well, it's something that I've come up. I'm learning Kubernetes right now because it's the hot new buzzword, and I want to put it on my CV, right? And there's lots of different ways you can authenticate, but then for authorization, it actually has a built-in default method, role-based access control.
Yeah.
So you have like a sort of golden path for defining what that is, but the authentication is actually kind of wide open. You kind of can build your own custom thing for that, and getting them confused can lead you to some very nasty security gaps.
Yes, it can. So one thing I was wondering about WebAuthn is so YubiKeys. It's a USB.
Yeah, without loss of generality, it's
a stick and you connect it.
Or you can do it with NFC for some of them, but it's a physical thing that you have to have in proximity.
Right. So if you had your phone, because people do most of their web browsing through the phone these days, apparently, apart from grown-ups like me. So you NFC with that.
You can.
But is there... at the moment, or are they thinking about, I unlock everything on my iPhone with my face?
And that is using a hardware token.
Which is using a hardware token. And
it
so
is.
Would WebAuthn, would I be able to go to a website and just sort of tap Face ID?
Yes.
And just magically log into the website?
Yes. One of the things that's difficult with that, as just using that hardware token kind of raw, as it were, like directly, is people lose their phones, people upgrade their phones. People's phones become obsolete because of planned obsolescence by big companies who want to suck you dry of all your money and make you buy the latest iPhone. So these hardware tokens, don't get me started. But these hardware tokens on your phone are actually, they have quite a frequent turnover, as it were, compared to like a YubiKey that USB-C is going to be around for a while, we hope. That's, that could last me 10 years, right? But I'm not going to keep the same phone for 10 years. And this kind of ties into a larger thing about like, what if you lose the device, right? Have you lost all of those accounts? Have you lost the way to sign into all of those accounts?
Yeah.
Right? So one of the things I'm going to talk about is this joint venture between, I think it's currently Google, Microsoft, and Apple. So 3 big kind of platform cloud vendors, or Apple's not a cloud vendor, but people that you have accounts with that your entire life might be stored in Google Drive, like me, your Google account, or your Microsoft account, or your Apple account.
Yeah.
And what they're doing is they're doing this thing called passkeys. And those are private public key pairs stored, again, without loss of generality, in the cloud somewhere, in your, let's say, Google account. And when they're stored in your Google account, they're encrypted with the password to your Google account.
Okay.
And then if I want to go and log into a website and I have a passkey stored in that cloud account, the website can go, oh, do you want to use your passkey? And then what I have to do in order to get Google to decrypt and supply that passkey is use the hardware token on my phone.
Yep.
So it's not using, the cryptography on the hardware token is just like confirming that you still own that phone that's registered to your Google account. And then you put your fingerprint in, your Face ID, whatever, and Google goes, oh cool, yeah, you have verified that you still have this device, you've authenticated, and you've authorized me also to decrypt and use the passkey to let you log into your account.
Right.
And what that does by storing them in the cloud is does a couple of things. One, you're protected against device loss because you get a new phone, you register it to its same Google account, you still have access to all those passkeys.
Yeah.
But it also very much puts all your eggs in one basket again.
Yes.
I mean, I lost the privacy battle a long, long time ago with Google. I've accepted that. If I wanted Google to not know everything about me, I'd have to completely change my name and just get a Proton mail and never talk to anyone again.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to do that. So for me, using passkeys in my Google account is pretty good, and it means I no longer have to worry about where my YubiKey is. I don't have to worry about my phone is. And when I get a new phone, it will drop right in as a replacement in this auth flow. But if you are somebody who doesn't want big Google or big Apple knowing what you're up to and where you have accounts, that currently it doesn't exist. Yeah. But some password managers have it on their roadmap. NPass and Bitwarden have it on their roadmap to add passkey support, and then Bitwarden you can just stand up your own and do your own thing. Then of course you have all the overhead of managing it, and if you lose them, then it's on you, right? Yeah. It's essentially the same risks as single sign-on with OIDC. Yeah. But using very cool cryptography and taking advantage of biometrics on your phone, which are, I think, extremely cool.
I always feel like if you're bothered about privacy, because I tried DuckDuckGo because the privacy-focused browser, and actually I have it set as my default browser in Edge. So when I'm typing stuff into the address bar, it's kind of going. Yeah. DuckDuckGo were the ones who were providing instant search feedback rather than Google. But I do find, if DuckDuckGo can't find it, I just go find google.com and then type it in there. And I am logged in with my primary Google account, my Gmail account, and it knows me. Yes. And it's actually quite useful when your search engine knows you, because it knows if I search for string, I've probably forgotten the constructor method that takes a span action or something.
It doesn't take you to the Wikipedia disambiguation page for string.
Which is quite handy.
I find it for like Google, for YouTube search stuff. Yeah, like absolutely. I fall asleep watching like Let's Plays of things, and there are some that I always go back to, and YouTube just knows that about me now. It's like, you're a loser with no life. I bet you want to watch the 22-hour perfection speedrun of Stardew to fall asleep. And I'm like, you bet I do. Yeah. Whereas mine's going, you want to buy this base now.
Is it wrong? Oh, God, no. No, I didn't know they got so expensive. Oh, my God. I recently switched over from Android to iPhone because my wife, my son, and my non-binary teenager have all got iPhones and so you were the odd Apple Watches, and it makes sense. And then also we got the Apple One Plus things that you can use in Arcade and whatever else. But it seems like Apple, in terms of, Apple gets a lot of this information about you, but I haven't seen any evidence that they're doing a damn thing with it.
This is one of the things I always think about. It's like, there's this massive wealth of data that we're all generating and metadata, and we had this excellent keynote yesterday by Bert Hubert about this. Munging through lots of data and trying to extract insights from it is actually really damn hard. And it's an entire discipline. Data science is an entire discipline, and sifting through these mountains isn't an adequate word of data to try and, I guess if you're targeting a specific person because you suspect that they're a terrorist or whatever, like, that's a much different proposition. But like, I'm not really worried that Google knows that I like to buy lots of expensive hand-dyed yarns or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, you can just ask me, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking about how long it took them to go through data from CERN, right, the Large Hadron Collider. And that was like with funding and scientists working around the clock. It's hard, it's a hard thing.
Yeah.
So I think we should be concerned about privacy and data stuff, but I also think that it's not the end of the world if like Google knows all my stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not that interested.
I don't know if the rumour's true that there are huge data centres like under Utah or something, which are just full of hard disks that have got all the encrypted communications that have been sent over the internet.
I know that my employer at Scaleway, we have a data bunker underneath Paris.
Right.
That's is a disused nuclear shelter.
Okay.
And it's full of hard drives. That's just where we have our cold storage.
Yeah.
You can put stuff there as a customer of Scaleway.
Yeah.
And that is hard drives. It's not magnetic tapes. So the talk I gave a couple of weeks ago in Oslo was about data storage, and this is one of the things I learned. So hard tangent into something else, but it wouldn't surprise me if there are massive banks of like data stored somewhere,
and they've just stored it encrypted on the basis that one day they'll be able to decrypt it.
Yeah.
So it's literally the raw TLS encrypted
web
amazing.
Traffic. Hey, well, we get quantum computing. We just break TLS. Elliptic curve cryptography is gone.
Yeah.
And society will collapse.
It is. But, society is, it's well overdue collapse.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
reminds me of the end of Cabin in the Woods, which is a favourite film of mine. And at the end, it's a horror movie, and at the end, the protagonists go, you know what? I think it is correct and right that the world should end and we get the bad ending. Give someone else a chance to...
Yes, that was quality.
Yes.
So Scaleway...
Yes.
That's it's an interesting proposition because you're a cloud provider. Cloud provider.
Yes.
In a world where AWS and Azure exist.
Yes. So these are American companies, and
they are. And Scaleway is a European company.
Exactly, and it's not one of our massive selling points, but something I do find interesting is we have customers for whom it's imperative that they not store data in data centers owned by an American company or owned by a company that also has data centers in America. Yeah. And we're neither of those things. We've only got data centers in Europe. So we can kind of de facto satisfy some very hard requirements that they have, for example, government-related bodies, education bodies, that like a variety of stuff, and most of which I'm not privy to, right? Because I'm a minion. All I do is I go to conferences and give my silly talks. But so there's a need there, I think, for regional cloud providers, given, again, data privacy, data sovereignty legislation that we have in the EU.
Yes.
For better or worse.
Theoretically, an American company can be forced by the American government to hand over any data that the American company controls.
Whatever the EU has to say about it, AWS, again, keep saying this without lots of generality, but AWS or whoever can just go, sorry, Patriot Act, nothing I can do.
Yes.
We're not subject to that in the same way. I mean, I think there are probably failure scenarios that exist that, again, I'm not versed in these kind of law. So.
Yeah. Also, you probably pay tax. So that's different.
Yes. But I've been working at Scaleway for 6 months, and I'm kind of new to the cloud native world. And so I've been, as I said, learning about Kubernetes. I've been learning about all of these really cool things, meeting people that who are big in the cloud native world. Being like, okay, well, what is the difference between a container and a virtual machine? And the answer is not as clear cut as you might think, and all of these kind of cool things. Yes.
Then just when you get your head around how containers work and Kubernetes, then they're going to pull the rug away again and make you switch everything over to WebAssembly.
That was what I was going to say. Oh, now we're doing WebAssembly. That's the latest and greatest. So I already knew a little bit about WebAssembly because I'm a Python person. And a year ago, at PyCon, Anaconda announced that they had in conjunction with there's a thing called Pyodide, which is C Python compiled to WASM so that it can run in the browser. And Anaconda's built a bunch of tooling around this, and they've called it PyScript, and it's this like nice syntax for doing essentially Python in HTML. And it was very cool. It continues to be very cool. A lot of tooling has been built up around it in the last year. So that was my kind of first introduction to the idea of WebAssembly.
Yeah.
I think it's cool. I like that it's sort of, obviously you're a JavaScript person in the sense that you know what, not to spoil your talk later today, but JavaScript is touched upon.
Yeah.
I like that we're continuing to kind of rethink what's the browser even doing. I mean, the browser has won the operating system wars, right?
Yeah,
like that's where
absolutely. Yeah.
So the fact that we aren't just going, okay, well, this is how it is. People are going, okay, what could we do with this? Could we drastically change things, like a paradigm shift? If we're going to go for the buzzwords.
Yes, I'm seeing something that I'm sort of tracking. I keep following new blogs when I find blogs about it, but there's this really interesting, and this is actually an effort among some of the smaller cloud providers in an attempt to provide something that Microsoft and Amazon really have no interest in providing at the moment. So if you have WebAssembly modules and you can deploy a manifest with your WebAssembly that says, I need cache, key value cache. I need a key value column store, and I need messaging. And so you declare that you need those things, and you write your code and compile it to WebAssembly, and there is a WebAssembly sort of standard ABI, like the application binary interface, and then wherever you deploy it to, just looks at the lists of things that it wants and goes, right, here's your messaging, here's
infrastructure
your cache,
code,
and it just mashes it together, which removes vendor lock-in, because then Scaleway can be saying, okay, we're going to use Redis and RabbitMQ, but someone else
we actually have RabbitMQ.
So, if Microsoft did get on board with it, they'll go, well, we're going to do Azure cache for Redis and service bus or something. But that's a really interesting aspect of this. The idea of not having to take a binary dependence on like stackexchange.redis in a .NET application. And instead just go, I just want cache. And I want to be able to set a value and get a value back.
Just implementation agnostic.
Yeah.
And like maybe you would want to be specific if there was like specific trade-offs that one implementation had, and you would want to specify that, but like by and large, people don't actually need that. I certainly don't need it for like the little toy apps that I build.
No.
Or for home labbing or something. So I think that's very cool. I think more modularity and portability of stuff is good. Just it's an unqualified good unless you are somebody who makes money off it being difficult to leave your service.
Yes.
Which like that is a way that is a business sort of thing that businesses will like to do. But in general, Scaleway is very much, we're trying to do things with open source. We're trying to make it easy for you to get your data out. Ideally, we'd like to keep people with us because they like using our products rather than because it's hard to leave. That's the sort of, that's the goal. I certainly would like to believe that's the goal. But no, it's very cool. It's interesting to be at a cloud provider without it being one of the big ones. I mean, I've never worked for Amazon or Azure or anything, but it's an interesting space to be in as we've got all these obviously Kubernetes continues to roll out breaking changes in its minor versions every few months. I don't understand what they're doing. Why are you using semantic versioning and then version 1.27 has breaking changes in it? That's not how it works. That's not how it works.
This is the downside of the bazaar.
They can rewrite the rules, it's fine. And I write a Kubernetes newsletter for Scaleway. So I'm up to date on, or at least I have a vested interest in like reading the change logs and seeing what's going on and this week in development in Kubernetes and stuff. So I'm gradually getting used to the idea that they do I don't know if version 2 is ever going to come.
Yes. No, I happily sort of exist on the surface of Kubernetes, and I can create a service and a deployment and a load balancer and maybe some secrets. And then that's like this little bit of the iceberg, and then there's the whole of the rest of, it's not even just the iceberg, it's a planet that's down there.
One of the things we have at Scaleway, which is really cool and I want to learn more about it, is a multi-cloud Kubernetes offering where you have the control plane lives in Scaleway and you can deploy nodes wherever you like. So let's say you have a load of GPU in Azure and you want to use that to do some GPU heavy task, like some workload. You can do that and you can have it controlled by a control plane that lives within Scaleway.
That's pretty cool.
It is really cool. I want to learn more about like how they made it work. Like there's a good conference talk in there, right? Like the story of building, it's called Cosmos. And I want to go and like, the thing is, I think probably a lot of the engineers who built it are French. So there's going to be me not knowing enough about Kubernetes to ask the right questions and me not knowing enough French to ask the right questions.
I can lend you Willow.
Absolutely, yes. Mark's eldest is a keen linguist and I think is hoping to study.
But also computer enthusiast.
So the thing is, one of the first time I met Mark, you were just like, oh, hey, by the way, I have 2 kids. They're the coolest people ever. And I was like, they do sound like the coolest people ever.
Yes,
so,
they are.
No,
the linguist and computer and
there's a lot of overlap.
Retro console, absolute Nintendo freak these days.
Yeah, they are part of a crowd that's like, I know a lot of people who have got those intersecting interests.
Yes.
All you've got to say is like that they're also into like knitting or yarn craft, and that'll be the trifecta.
Not so much with the physical world actually.
That's fair enough.
It's all very abstract. So,
but yeah, no, it's Scaleway's a cool place to be. It's cool. I'm learning a lot of stuff. Sometimes it feels like I'm stuffing my brain full of things and some of it's overflowing over the top, but better that than being bored.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
And one of the things I get to do as part of my job is come to conferences like this and talk to cool people and it's great.
No. Cool. Okay, well, I think that's probably it.
We've said some words.
We've said a lot of stuff We don't want to keep people around any longer than we have to. So, it's been really interesting. And I will still come to your talk this afternoon, unless I'm doing another one of these. I don't know.
You might be going to Dylan's.
Or I might be,
how many times have you seen plain text from Dylan before?
Oh no, so I definitely don't need to see that again. But, and I will see you up on stage tonight.
Oh yeah, you're not getting away from me today. We're doing all the same stuff.
All right, cheers. Thanks very much.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the GOTO podcast. Head over to gotopia.tech to discover lots more content from the brightest minds in software development.